Folks, welcome to another edition of Hindsight. If you're still listening after all this time, damn, you must not have nothing better else to do than listen to us. Anyway,
Nah, you know they going in if they're listening to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Today's edition, man, I mean, how do I even get through this? This is a situation where a landlord is evicting tenants. The landlord is not necessarily distancing himself enough from the situation. He approaches them, or they show up while he's moving the stuff out of his property. Of course, an argument ensues. He's carrying. Assuming he had an open carry permit or what have you, but he's got the firearm on him, and there's an argument, and then he uses the firearm. One of the tenants is shot, and then eventually dies. He flees the scene of the crime, calls his girlfriend. The law enforcement officials pick him up later, away from the scene of the crime, and he is then subsequently charged with murder. So, yeah, Mr. Suave, let's start with you, please.
Oh man. Well, I'm looking at Mr. Wilder here, Mr. Ryan Wilder.
Yes.
First degree charges for murder. Man, Florida just been getting hot lately. Am I right? I mean, not just the weather. These the criminal activities, just the extracurricular activities is out of control down in Florida. I'm seeing, and I'm based out of Florida, so I'm getting it firsthand. Man. But I'm looking at Mr. Wilder. He got them Tommy eyes from Power. what I'm seeing right here. So the dude look a little off. He looks a little off. Anybody who don't know who Tommy from Power is, live under a rock, go Google it. Go give my man 50 some respect on stars.
That's the show, Power.
Put some respect on that name. Right, so the dude is, all right, he's doing his thing. He's a landlord. He's 32. He's a landlord. So he's getting money. He's making money moves, okay? Mm-hmm. And the backstory from what I was seeing is, sorry about that. Backstory from what I was seeing is, he went through all the proper documents, because you can't just serve somebody papers and kick him out. It's actual process you got to get him out. And I think it takes about 30 days, minimum of 30 days, because, the court is going to allow that person not to be homeless and give them time to get their stuff and get out.
Right.
So I guess he decided to take matters into his own hands. And like Beats Business was saying, he didn't separate himself. I guess he didn't have a rental property company. Maybe he didn't go by himself. He decided, this is a right to carry state, So he has, I'm assuming this is concealed firearm permit. I'm just assuming, I don't know. He had his firearm with him, so he went, started moving the people's stuff out. Now, an altercation breaks out. Because, you're my landlord. I come up, I know I'm being a dirtbag tenant, and you done kick me out. I come home, I don't expect to see all my stuff on the floor. I don't expect to see all my stuff on the street. That's my stuff. That's my pillow I put my head on and go to sleep and drool on stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't expect to see that on the floor. So
right.
Hence to say, I just gotta assume the dude got emotional. Some words were exchanged. Now the tenant did the right thing. He told the girlfriend to notify the cops. You know why? Now you got law enforcement presence. Now you can contain the situation before it gets out of hand. Unfortunately, instead of him taking a step back and keep letting the landlord do what he was doing, he kept engaging. And what did the landlord do? In Florida, these cats are trigger happy. Everybody who got a gun in Florida are trigger happy. Not just from the law enforcement. I'm talking about the citizens. Anybody who got a gun is trigger happy. And who knows what he's going to say, when this investigation goes on further. But he pulled out his gun. He hit Mr. Young man. What's
Palicki?
It's Palicki? Yeah, he hit. Palicki. What's his name? Palicki. Okay, he hit. Okay, he hit Mr. Palicki in his left forearm, which, that's okay. That's just some shattered bones, probably, depending on what hit. The neck, you got a major artery right there. That's almost guaranteed bleed out. mid-back. Now you depend on where the back, it could be paralysis. And in the upper thigh, you got a main artery up there too. So he could have hit two of the 4 spots, got major arteries that he was hitting. This dude bled out. He died.
Yes.
He died at the hospital. And you know, I already know just from previous cases, he's gonna say I was in fear for my life. I already know that's what he's gonna say. That's what his lawyer is gonna say. Why did he flee the scene and run? Who knows? Who knows? He's gonna say, "Oh, I was distraught." We've seen this case go down from Trayvon Martin to from the shooting down in Tampa, where the kids was playing loud music in the dude guy's car, shot the car up and drove away. You know what I mean? It's just you know, these cats are just too trigger happy. You know, when you own a firearm, not even from the law enforcement standpoint, that is a game changer. A firearm ain't a knife. A firearm ain't no nunchucks. A firearm is not a bow staff. It's a firearm. One trigger, that is life and death. From a distance, close up, mid range. That's a game changer. And you know, there's not enough details for me to say different type of techniques you can use to maybe try to disarm a firearm. Because you know, in close proximity, there's ways that we teach where you can't. You know, you grab the hand and you pull it down real fast, and you just rip the grip right from his thumb. Because the thumb is one of the weakest points on the hand. I know Sensei Buddha, when he speaks, he can go a little more into detail about that. But it's, you know, we don't know all the details of how close they were, what really happened, where he felt he needed to pull that gun out and end Mr. Palicki's life. Even when he was almost doing the right thing by calling law enforcement, he just didn't wait long enough for them to show up. You know, I just think this is another unnecessary lost life with somebody thinking, this is my house, my way, my rules, my life, your life don't mean nothing no more. It's a shame. But the girlfriend is alive, fortunately. Mr. Palicki's girlfriend, her name was, trying to remember her name again.
Colleen Lyons.
This Colleen Lyons, thankfully she wasn't hit with firearm, but she was able to give a good description, and that will be a character witness when this goes to court. But like I said, they probably were dirtbag tenants if he had to go through all these issues to get him kicked out.
Who's tapping on the line? I hear some tapping.
Tapping?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I don't know.
I'm hearing the...
You still hear it?
Nah, you're good. Maybe you're shaking the coffee table or desk or something like that. I don't know.
I don't know. My bad. I didn't hear nothing.
Right,
but yeah, maybe you know, it seems that they were kind of dirtbag tenants that they had to get them kicked out and go through all those processes, but that don't mean they're dirtbag people to lose their life. You know, not paying money is one thing, a whole life is another. So it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that happened. Sensei Buddha, what you got, brother?
I completely agree with you and physicists. This is on two ends because, you know, the landlord, he won. The landlord won. All he had to do was just hire some hands and have the property removed. He won. But instead, for whatever reason, he decides to pull out his firearm and then he shoots. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. It's beautiful.
Oh, excellent.
You're good, brother. You're good.
Okay, great. And it just, you know, it just amazes me, man. First and foremost, there must have been some kind of a problem with these tenants because, as Mr. Suave pointed out, you can't just get evicted immediately. They knew that the eviction was coming. Mr. Palicki, Mr. Kenneth Palicki, he should have realized, hey, man, I got my lady here. Let's grab our stuff. Let's go. We know that this is coming. But he didn't do that. I don't know what kind of a stand he was trying to make. But like what Mr. Suave said, I understand you see your stuff being thrown out on the street. But, man, the time is here. It's time for you to go. Get out. Get, as they say in those Westerns. And he, you know, for whatever reason, he decided to stand up to this man or whatever the case may have been. And sadly, you know, he was shot. The thing here is that after he shot Mr. Palicki, Mr. Ryan Wilder, when he shot Mr. Palicki, he got into his truck, drove off, and he called his girlfriend, Amber Gray. And he told her, hey, you know, I shot this guy. I claim self-defense. My whole thing is when you do a self-defense, man, and I can understand you may have to buck on the run. But this was not one of those situations. When that happened, he should have stayed right there. He should have called, police, whatever the case may have been, and filed his claim, his report. Miss Lyons is there. Colleen Lyons is, the deceased's girlfriend. That's going to be a major character witness. And, this guy, he's going to probably end up having life in jail. These guys, they don't, I just don't get it. The man won. Mr. Wilder won. He won his case. You get hands to move things. When I used to live over in a spot over here in the Bronx, over by Unionport Road, and I was friends with the landlord there, and he had to call for eviction. So, one time I went with him to court. We filed the paperwork, got Mr. Bahia up on the scene. And, he came in, they cleared the apartment. And then that's when my man, he got on the phone. He called his boys and said, come on, let's do it. And they proceeded to then put everything out. I believe that they gave, I think 30 or 60 days up here in New York City to wait for the person to come and claim their belongings. And, of course, they didn't come back. They just left. They never came back. So then after that time, he hired some hands, paid them the money, and you move the stuff. As a business owner, you never, ever, I would never want to have myself to be mixed up in a situation where I have to walk around and pull out a firearm. He should have hired some hands, alleviated himself of all that pressure and all that duty. He could have even sat in his truck, and when they came back and man started to argue with the people moving his stuff out, he can now call the police, and they'll show up to back him up. And now he's going to, he done lost his business. He's going to probably be in jail for the rest of his life unless he can prove this self-defense thing, which I don't believe he can do. And what I want to make a connection here is I believe that this was ego involved in it on both Mr. Wilder as well as on Mr. Palicki's part. Yeah, big ego. Yeah, because you walking around, you moving an ex-tenant stuff out solo and with a gun. Where's your mindset? Yeah, I'm the man. That's right.
I got the juice. Who got the juice? I got the juice. Yes, Mr. Suave. 1,000,000% I agree with you. And to me, if I'm a person dealing in a business like this, where you have landlord-tenant, you want to keep as professional as possible. As a matter of fact, a lot of these landlords, they know police officer friends. They have people that will come out and say, hey, man, I got to move this stuff out. Can you come out here and watch this for me? Or you know what? Can you send a patrol over? I just want to make sure this goes smooth. I need a witness. And having a law enforcement person here, that removes the burden off of you so that you don't have to fight. To me, I completely believe in legal carry. But to me, that should be when someone's trying to climb into your home, or if you're being accosted on the street for real, somebody's trying to come at you, then you got to go ahead and lay him down. But this situation, no. Mr. Ryan Wilder should have stayed back, hired the hands, and kept it moving. Now, on the part of Mr. Palicki, when you have your
you're coming in and out.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. Now, on the part of Mr. Palicki, concerning his girlfriend, Colleen Lyons, man, if you ain't got a firearm and there's too much distance that you can't close and disarm somebody, and this is assuming that he had some type of training or he knew what he was doing, I do not know. I'm going to take my woman and we're going to get out of there. I'm going to extract you out of there immediately. I'm going to pull you out of there. This is not something to show and prove your manhood. You got to extract your woman out of there, your family members, your loved ones out of there. Now, if you want to come back and deal with this in some kind of way, which I would never advocate, you come back with police. But to me, even if he's throwing your most valuable, treasured stuff out, and you see he's doing it with a firearm, clearly, in my humble opinion, they must have had such a tremendous disagreement that he felt, you know what? If this guy comes up on me, I'm going to shoot him.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, what I like to say about, number one, I'd like to say that definitely when you have a firearm, it is a great responsibility. And when you have a firearm on your person, the way you approach people has to change because
100%.
you have this weapon. You have the potential to end somebody's life, which is a big deal. So I noticed that when I would say, let's take, for example, the police in England in general. They don't carry firearms on their person. They keep it in the vehicle, but when they're on the street patrolling, they don't get a firearm unless they need one. But then again, of course, England has a complete gun ban. You know, if you get caught with a firearm there, you're doing football numbers. So that's one thing, is like your mentality has to change. We've seen this before, like Mr. Suave has said in past cases in the media. And also, call the sheriff. I mean, that's what they're there for. If you watch, I remember watching an old episode of Cops, and this lady said, hey, I got a firearm. You know, if they come back in my house again, I'm going to end them, blah, blah, blah. And, this is, of course, in the northeast region of the United States. And, she told the cops this. The cops were like, whoa, hold on, man. If something pops off, call us. That's what we're here for. Don't worry. We'll take care of that. So, I believe that law enforcement is there for a reason. You've got the sheriff. Use them. Pay the whatever fee it costs to handle an eviction or serve papers or whatever it is in your local municipality. And just let the experts do their job.
Yes, that's very true. Because up here in the Bronx, as I said before, when Ira and we went there for the day of the eviction, they knew it was coming. They slipped a paper underneath the door to let them know that they have a month to vacate. And when the person comes, they send a marshal up there. So we have the keys. We knock on the door. We say hello, hello, hello. Knock, 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 knock. Hello, hello. And then that's when the gentleman said, hey, marshal, we're coming in. We open the door. He's got the gun out. He's got his boys with him. They're dealing with that. This is something that I personally eyewitnessed, and I was a part of that process. So for that gentleman to have that mentality, for Mr. Wilder to say, you know what, I'm going to do it all on my own. If you come up on me, I'm going to, put a hurting on. Oh, man. Now the guy's going to be in jail. He's a young guy, too. He's only like 32 years old. Yeah, at 32 years old. Now, they didn't indicate if he had children and stuff. We know he had a girlfriend, so he wasn't married at this point, in the report of the article. But we don't know if he had any children. And this is just a bad scenario when you're hot-headed. And I can understand that because you got a tenant who's giving you hell. And the tenant that Ira had evicted, they had given him hell. They had fights up there. They were fighting all the time. It was just, the whole place was a place of debauchery. They even said prostitution was going on up there. They were off the chain, as we said. And there was nothing we could do until the court said, hey, bang, boom, no rent was paid. It's that time. Let's get him out. We had to put up with that for like half a year. The noise, the craziness. Thank goodness that nobody brought a gun up there. They started shooting all over the place.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's so hard when you want to rent to somebody, you don't know what you're going to get. And one of the rules of thumb is very sad, is that amongst landlords here in New York, especially like in the Bronx, if they got a single woman and she's very young or with a child, whatever the case may be, there's some skepticism, for renting to her because you don't know if she's got the boyfriend who's going to come in on the back end after a month or two, and he's just laying low to start coming in and easing himself in. When on the lease, it was obvious that only one person was going to be there. They even had it in the contract that nobody else could stay with her, unless, of course, if it's relatives or family or something. But lo and behold, that woman, she brought in her boyfriend 2 months later when she thought things were cool. And that's when we knew everything was going to go down. Come to find out that this guy who was the boyfriend, he had warrants for his arrest. This guy was a thug, real deal thug. One of the stab people, massacres. So it's really hard when you're working with people, man. Sometimes in that kind of a situation.
Crazy.
Okay.
Crazy. Crazy.
Yes, indeed. Okay. So, I guess in hindsight, folks, if you're ever in a situation like this, someone approaches you, they have a firearm on their hip, obvious thing to do is create some distance between you and the person with the firearm. Don't try to ensue or provoke any type of confrontation.
This ain't the movies. This is real life.
Yeah, your life is worth more than some minor disagreement that could blow up, and you're not a punk if you walk away or flee from the scene. People always say, "Oh, I'm not a man if I don't stand up for myself," yada yada yada. Nah, screw all that. That's that G code or whatever it is you think exists doesn't exist. We've had conversations about this before, and especially from Mr. Suave, who will say all these people will talk about not snitching and the G code and standing up and whatever. It all goes out the window when there's football numbers on the table. So,
man, I get my head hurt. I don't even want to hear that right now. I get me hot. Man, I remember reading The Godfather.
Folks, thank you for listening. As always, hindsight is always 2020. And
I love all people, by the way. I love all people.
Protect yourself at all times. Be safe. This
Be aware of your surroundings.
Yes, this show, we're trying to give you practical solutions, practical advice for situations, to save your life and those around you that you care about. So, thanks for listening, and unless there's anything else, well, actually, we've got the email that you can contact us with. The email address is thehynde@gmail.com. That's spelled THEHYNDESITE@gmail.com. That's thehynde@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Feel free to troll us, whatever, let us know what you think. All right. Take care and be well.
Peace.